This podcast is brought to you by North Carolina's electric cooperatives.
This is NC Spin, an unrehearsed discussion on issues of interest to North Carolinians. Now, here is your moderator, Tom Campbell.
Thank you for tuning in this week's NC Spin. We've got a program you'll find important and informative, beginning with an exclusive interview we did with Governor Roy Cooper. He'll talk about what it'll take to relax restrictions in our state, and we know also that education is our most important function in state government, and we want to find out how it's been impacted by COVID-19 and what's being done. So we talk with education legislator Representative Craig Horn from Union County. We'll begin after these brief messages from our underwriters.
Today's tools make you a real DIYer, and as a member of an electric cooperative, you have lots of valuable tools to help you do it yourself in controlling your home energy use and budget, leaving you free to be Dad.
The big issue in 2020 is healthcare. Let's talk basics. You are the key to your own personal health, but there is strong evidence that if you have a relationship with a family physician, your quality of life will be better. You'll likely live longer, and you'll have 33% lower healthcare costs. Your family doctor knows you, has your medical history, and can quickly diagnose health problems. Family Physicians, your trusted healthcare advisor for life.
Thank you, Governor Cooper, for taking time out of a very busy schedule to talk with us. In your press conference that you had Thursday afternoon, you announced that you were going to be extending the stay home orders through May 8th. I know there are going to be a lot of people that were very disappointed in that. What would you like to say to them?
Well, we have to do things with care and not haste, and we have to make decisions based on science, data, and facts. And that's what we've done here. We've set up some objective criteria that we need to meet in order to get our economy moving in phases. I know that people are hurting. I know that people are anxious to get back to normal, but we have a very contagious virus that's causing a global pandemic, and health experts and even the White House guidelines would tell North Carolina that it is too soon to begin easing restrictions. But we have a plan in place that's going to be very methodical. We need to use care, not haste, and we plan to begin turning the light on with a dimmer switch and not just with an on-off, because It would be catastrophic for the health of North Carolinians if we just took all of the restrictions away. I'm proud of the people of North Carolina for having to flatten this curve, and I think we're going to make this work.
I'm curious, why did you choose May 8th? That's a week out from your original April 31st deadline. Why May 8th? Why not May 15th or some other date?
Well, today's the 23rd. We were looking at trying to examine about a 14-day trajectory. Remember, all of the indicators that Dr. Cohen was talking about earlier, the positive tests, the percentage of positive tests, the hospitalizations, we want to look at 14-day trends. And from now until May 8th is about a 2-week period. What we're hoping is that we will see positive indications on the trends data, trends testing and tracing, and to be able to go into the next phase then. But if we don't see those objectively, then we'll have to wait a little bit longer.
Do you have to hit all of them? Is there one of them that's any more important than another one? Or put it another way, is there one of them that's a deal breaker?
The health experts want to look at it in a combination, because there are some shortcomings on each objective measurements that they won't have enough information. But if you look at it in a combination, and if we are steadying or declining in these areas, then we know that we're ready for the next phase. And I'm going to rely on the health experts who are looking at this data to make sure that we're making the right kinds of decisions. But I think we've picked the right kinds of things. It encourages us to increase our testing, and we hope that the percentage of positive tests continue to go down. We need to keep an eye on our hospitalizations because that's what we're trying to prevent with these restrictions, is prevent our medical system from being overwhelmed. So keeping an eye on that. And the pre-COVID symptoms, that's already declining. We're in good shape with that, and we hope it continues that way. But I think this is a good setup. It incorporates a lot of what the White House recommended that we look at to make decisions on easing restrictions in North Carolina. This is something that will be public data that people can look at. North Carolinians can look, see how they're doing. And we can all work together to try and flatten this curve and get us where we need to get on all of these indicators and begin doing things to ease restrictions and moving our economy forward, because I know a lot of people are hurting out there. I know that people are very anxious. I know that parents are tired of having their kids at home all the time and want them to get back to school. All those things people are feeling right now, and there's a great degree of frustration.
And it's understandable.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Our team understands. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, this is unprecedented. We've never seen anything like this.
I think that's
so we're having to deal with new
a point that we
things.
need to underscore. We've never in our lifetime seen anything like that. I've been watching the press conferences that Governor Cuomo and others have been doing across the United States, and I got to commend y'all for really coming out and giving factual information, data-driven information. And there was some good news in this. I think there was the number of tests that are going up, the trend lines showing that they are leveling or sustained anyway. There's some good news out of this.
We've got some of the strongest capability for testing in the country. We're still not where we need to be, and I explained a little bit of that process and how it worked from the hiccups at the CDC early on in the process, which delayed the kind of testing that we can do. But we're beginning to ramp up, and the more tests we can do, the more information that we have. It tells us where we are, and I look forward to continuing to gather this data so that we can use it to make good decisions going forward. One thing about our system is that we're not very centrally focused. We have a lot of independent hospitals that do their own thing, and I'll commend them. They've had to do something different. They're now having to report everything here to the Emergency Operations Center, and that's been a struggle for everybody. Not used to doing that, but I think they've realized that as we are providing help to them, that it's important for us to have the data and the information so that we can make good decisions. We have a lot of requests across the state for personal protective equipment, and we don't have enough of it yet. We're doing everything we can to try and get it, and we're making significant progress there. But if we know where we are, then we can know where we need to be. And that's exactly right.
The Roy Cooper I know sort of has in the back of his mind a timeline a little bit. Tell us a little bit what you think is an optimal situation to move into phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Are we talking about 3 months in your opinion, 6 months, what?
Well, the very optimal situation is as we laid out. If we can go into phase 1 in May 9th, then what you would have is a minimum of 2 to 3 weeks to see if the indicators are going the way we want, and if they are, we can go into phase 3 after 4 to 6 weeks of looking at the indicators in phase 2. So if all of that happens, then that's positive, and this is not going to be an arbitrary decision. It's going to be based on objective criteria that everybody can see and everybody knows, and we can get a lot of opinions from people. And this is an evolving situation. There may be things that come up, or we need to adjust the formula, or we may need to make some changes in the phases as we get input from people. But we realize we are in uncharted waters. And so the decisions we're making, we're working to make them as objective as possible. And you do that using the science and the data, and you try not to use the emotion of it all.
Speaking of
there,
data,
there is a lot of frustration.
Let me transition to you. You've spoken in some of your press conferences about the supply chain. And the few occasions that I've had to go into the grocery store, the shelves are still, there's nothing. There's no toilet paper. There's no paper towels. There are no wipes. How long is it going to take for the supply chain to catch up? And is there something you as governor need to do to get involved in that?
Where there are certain items that there are shortages of sometime, but as a general rule, the supply chain on the grocery stores is working. I've pulled all the grocery store chains together. I've had them on the phone. I truly admire the people who are working so hard in our supply chain, particularly for food and necessary items at grocery stores, starting with our farmers and the people who work in the fields and the people who do the processing and the people who drive the trucks and the people who work in the grocery stores. They're all on the front line. And we're doing everything we can to help maintain the supply, helping them with their problems with their employees and making sure their employees are safe. I've waived a number of rules and regulations to allow them to do more and to get things quicker. So, I think overall, particularly with the high demand out there of everybody being home and everybody being a little bit frightened, I think part of it is that some people are still hoarding, and we would ask people not to do that. Just buy what you need because the supply chain is in pretty good shape. I think maybe most of the problems are happening at the consumer level, where people just want to go in and buy everything they see in case something happens. And what we want people to know is that the supply chain is in good shape, and just take what you need and remember that there are others who need to come behind you and get some things that they need to.
I got plenty of other questions, but Dory McMillan is pulling on my chain saying he's got to get out of here.
Yes.
Final question. Is there something final, last word, you'd like to have with the people of North Carolina?
I continue to see positive stories out there. I see grandkids waving at their grandparents through the window at a nursing home and having drawn pictures for them. I see people who are teleworking from home who have sent out a Facebook post to their friends to say, hey, any healthcare worker that needs childcare, I'm going to be at home. I'll take care of your child. I see a neighbor who keeps going shopping for a senior in our at-risk population and brings the groceries every week. That's the North Carolina that I know, and it's what's going to get us through this. We're going to depend on each other. We're going to deal with this thing that we don't know much about, but North Carolinians are resilient, and we're going to come out on the other end even better than we were before.
Thank you,
Thanks
Governor,
a lot,
for
Tom.
your time,
Appreciate it.
and thank you for the job you're doing for our state. Most of us have been focused on the health-related issues and the economy so far as COVID-19 is concerned, but perhaps the single most important function of state government is education, where we spend 57 cents of every tax dollar received. We want to talk about how education is being impacted during this coronavirus pandemic, and we've turned to the person known as the education legislator, Representative Craig Horn from Union County. By way of introduction, Craig is a retired food broker from Union County. He's been a legislator since 2010. He chairs both the Appropriations and Policy Committees in the North Carolina House, and frankly, is a person that we have turned to on many occasions for information. Craig, welcome to the show. North Carolina schools years was disrupted on March 13th when school was suspended, supposedly till May 15th. Will students return to school at all this year? Is the school year over essentially?
That's a hard question to answer. And of course, it's not within the legislature's power to make that determination. That determination will be made by the governor. But undoubtedly, the impact of that decision is huge. It's already huge. Kids have not been in school since, I think, March 12th, March 13th. That's a lot of instructional time that's been taken away from them, and it's devastating to education.
How could you possibly catch up? I mean, the school year has to end sometime in June, we would assume, normally. So logic would tell you they can't catch up. Even if they go back in May 15th, they won't be able to catch up on much of what they've missed. So essentially, I suspect it's probably over.
Yeah, even if they do go back on the 15th or 16th of May, the first week or 10 days is going to be in readjusting to the school environment, to each other. Everybody's got a story, the excitement, we're back to almost some kind of normal.
Yep.
Education, the delivery of education has, for the most part, ended as we have come to know it.
I think that's exactly correct. Now, state law says that schools cannot open any earlier than the Monday closest to August 26th, and the session has to end on the Friday closest to June 11th. Obviously, the calendar is all askew right now. Is the legislature going to have to come in and do something about some calendar flexibility?
Well, this is a challenge that we've faced for years. It's not just unique to the COVID pandemic that we're enduring at the moment. But there's no question in my mind that we've got to do something about instructional time. And kids have been out too long. We're hopeful that the legislature will move diligently to change the calendar, allow instruction to begin sooner, especially for the kids that are suffering the most, that are the most academically at risk.
Yes.
So that's going to be a proposal, no question.
And so trying to maintain that 180 days, is that going to be kept sacrosanct?
Well, that's another piece of the puzzle. 180 days, what's the magic of 180 days? My concern is getting kids ready for the next step, whatever the next step might be, whether it's a fourth grader going to fifth grade or a high school senior going into college or into the workforce. Our obligation is to prepare kids. Can that be done in 180 days when you've already lost 3 months? I doubt it.
I don't think so either. It was hoped that schools could transition to online learning kind of experience during this. How well, from your standpoint, how well has that worked?
I'd give us a C-, which in some areas actually, and I'll use Onslow County as an example, they have hardly missed a beat. They are doing really, really well with online learning. But in other areas, it's spotty at best. We know we've got connectivity issues, we've got device issues, and I'll say this as well, Tom. Learning online is different than learning in the classroom setting.
No question.
And it's the same way with teaching. Teaching online is different than teaching in a classroom setting. These are skill sets that we haven't fully developed across North Carolina or across this nation.
You and I have talked before about reforming public education. This is forcing reforms. Do you think they will be lasting? You think they'll be lasting reforms?
Yes, I actually do. I think we've come to the realization that the internet is here to stay. It's not just a game or a toy. It is, and frankly, I'm going to coin a phrase from Dr. Jackson, Tony Jackson in Vance County. This is a COVID opportunity, an opportunity to truly reform how we deliver education. I've long talked about taking education to the kids, not the kids to education. I spent 40 years in the food business. I talked then about taking food to the people, not people to the food. Now's that opportunity to truly take advantage of the digital environment, of technology, to deliver a high quality education to every student. The challenges are manifest. Connectivity and devices are just the first two pieces of that challenge. It's the skill sets that we have to develop. Where do we learn that? And one thing we know for sure, we don't learn it overnight.
We've got issues with the fact that many schools, in many districts, the kids don't have laptops or devices, and this is a need. And then you couple that with the fact that in many rural counties, they don't have access to broadband internet.
Right. Well, and those are the two key issues that have to be addressed right now. First, let's talk about connectivity. My own personal opinion is we may need to move to a status in our state, in our nation, where connectivity to the internet is equitable with access to television, telephones, electricity, every house in North Carolina has access to those things. They need to have access to connectivity. And that's not just an education issue, Tom. That's a commerce and job development issue.
It is.
Then the second part are the devices. And devices are expensive. Well, so are textbooks. But textbooks go out of date. Well, I guess devices do too, but not quite at
Textbooks are out of date when they're printed.
Well, that's exactly right. Because the moving to online education or using online as a supplement or as another tool in our education tool bag has to be done. And we've got surplus computers from the state that need to get into the hands of needy kids. We've got a number of our private enterprises stepping up to provide devices. So this is an opportunity for all of us to come together, the utilities, the device manufacturers, the distributors, and the teachers to meet the needs of kids in the 21st century.
Craig, you are a person who is known as a uniter. Let us hope you can unite all the different factions around this. There are a lot of kids typically during normal times who are online, but they are having to go to the McDonald's or to the Starbucks or to their public library to be able to get high-speed broadband internet access. Now, during this pandemic, those things are closed, so they have no access.
Well, that's true. However, I'm happy to tell you that many of these facilities, the library, the McDonald's, the fire stations, they have continued to keep their hotspots open. And that's been a godsend for many kids. But it's got to go beyond that. That getting in the car, driving to this place or that place is not a long-term solution. We've got to be able to bring connectivity right to the home.
There's some safety issues involved with that, and I'm sure you
That's
would say that.
Exactly right.
Let me switch gears for just a second.
Sure.
One thing that's been interrupted on this is end-of-year testing, in which we are able to tell how well the kids have learned this year. The legislature is going to be asked to suspend testing requirements. We know that.
Right.
What's being considered when y'all come back to Raleigh next week? What impact will this suspension on testing have? Because it has a lot to play with teacher bonuses, principal bonuses, school ratings, any number of issues.
And exactly right. It's all intertwined. It's not just simply did the kid pass or fail a course. As you said, it impacts the letter grade on the outside of school, what we call school performance grades. It impacts teacher pay, teacher raises, tenure, everything. But we've lost that portion of the year where testing comes to play. So it would not be fair to the teachers or the kids to rely on testing from this year that's not going to exist. What are we going to do about that? So we're waiving most of those testing requirements. The pressure then is on us that when we can get back underway to ascertain, okay, where are the kids? We need to be able to determine where the kids are at that point and then adjust the curriculum to meet their needs. If we're going to expect the kids to have achieved a certain level, we need to know the reality is we need to know what level have they achieved and go from there. Meet the kids where they are.
How are you going to handle teacher and principal bonuses, school grades, and so forth like that when you don't have this test?
That we don't have them, and so the consequence is we're not going to handle them. We're going to have to kind of just hold those in abeyance. What the school grade is what it's going to be.
So in other words, last year's grade will carry over to this year.
Right. Yeah. We're not going to penalize people. If we tested now after this stop area, this time when we've stopped education, that would not be fair, nor would it be reflective of what's actually been accomplished.
You've been a key member of this, it's called an education working group.
Yes.
And I know from having talked with you that you've been on almost constant telephone conversations with people. You're coming back to Raleigh next week. By the way, you're going to shave that beard when you come back?
You know, some people say it makes me look younger. I kind of like that idea of making me look younger.
All right. one of the things that is going to be considered is we had passed a law saying that in grades K through 3, we were going to have a program of reducing classroom size. How's that going to be affected by what's going on right now?
My opinion, we're going to have to delay that year. That we've had another step that's supposed to go into effect this coming year. We're playing with cards face down.
Yes.
So we're going to suggest put in front of the legislature a bill to delay that classroom size reduction for another year.
Craig Horn, I have good feelings with you dealing with these issues, and I thank you for that. As usual, you are candid and you tell it like it is, and I appreciate that so very much. Thank you for being with us.
I appreciate what you're doing, Tom.
All right.
Thanks very much for this opportunity.
Well, you've heard our spin on the issues of the day. To stay informed all during the week, give your feedback, read my weekly column, visit our website, ncspin.com, or catch NC Spin on Facebook. Join us next week. We've got more balanced debate for the Old North State. Until then, stay informed and watch out for the spin.
Today's tools make you a real DIYer, and as a member of an electric cooperative, you have lots of valuable tools to help you do it yourself in controlling your home energy use and budget, leaving you free to be Dad.
The big issue in 2020 is healthcare. Let's talk basics. You are the key to your own personal health, but there is strong evidence that if you have a relationship with a family physician, your quality of life will be better. You'll likely live longer, and you'll have 33% lower healthcare costs. Your family doctor knows you, has your medical history, and can quickly diagnose health problems. Family Physicians, your trusted healthcare advisor for life.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC TV.